If you are using ChatGPT to do repetitive things like write email newsletters, social posts, or YouTube descriptions, or anything else that's repetitive, you're going to want to pay attention because rewriting prompts and copying and pasting for the same type of task is a waste of time. And it feels like you're repeating the same type of building over and over and over again. What I'm going to show you today is how to create a custom GPT. I'm going to show you what it is, how to build one, and how you can use it. It's going to save you a ton of time and it's going to make your life easier. This is especially useful if you work in a team environment because you can share this with other people. So let's dive in. I'm going to use my own work as an example, and I'm going to walk you through the entire process. First of all, what in the heck are custom GPTs? It's another confusing terminology of letters and acronyms from OpenAI. And it's just helpful to think about it as you're building a reusable assistant that remembers all of your preferences. That includes tone of voice, your style. It remembers the type of job that you've been instructed to do. Just imagine that you've got this assistant and you've given it some instructions and it's programmed into that assistant. Each time you start it, it's a new chat, but it has all that background information of what you want to do and how to do it and how to write it. It's perfect for the things I described, and it's useful for so many other things as well. With today's example, I'm going to show you how to build one and give you an idea of what it can do for you. First of all, when you get into ChatGPT, you do need the paid version of this, and you need to be working from a browser. If you are working from an app like your mobile app or even a desktop app, it may not have this functionality, so you definitely want to be in a browser. And the way you get to this is on the left-hand side, there's a button that says Explore GPTs, and it'll bring you up to this menu where you can see GPTs that other people have created, and you have an opportunity to build one yourself. Before we get started, a quick overview of the layout. There's two tabs up here, one that says Create and one that says Configure. And you can think of this Create and Configure as kind of like on the left-hand side, the Create option is like having a wizard that's going to walk you through building this custom GPT. So if you didn't know how to build one, it would be a step-by-step instructions from ChatGPT helping you build it. On this right-hand side where it says Configure, if you had a prompt already developed and you knew that it worked because you've tested it on other standalone chats, you could drop it right in here in the instructions, write a description, give a name, and then you'd be good to go. I'm going to show you a little bit of both, but my preference is to start with the configuration because I want to have a little bit more control over the type of prompt that it puts into these instructions. But it's also useful to see how the wizard works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a prompt that I've already created and see how the wizard would build it. Here's my prompt, and what I'm asking it to do is I want it to be the voice of Steve. I want it to be a reusable assistant that will help me write all of the things that go into creating these videos. I write email newsletters, I write YouTube descriptions, I write social posts, and I write a few other things, all based off of the transcript from the videos that I'm recording. And there's a certain way that I want these written. I want it to sound like me. I don't want it to sound like AI. So I have a lot of examples of what those look like in the end. And so that's what I've asked it to do in this prompt. I've got some information about the brand and my why and things like that. So I just hit enter, and right away it's taking all of this information, which is a pretty good standalone prompt as it is. And it's going to go through and it's going to develop its own version of this. And I did tell it that I wanted to call it the voice of Steve. So I'm just going to say yes. And then it's going to walk me through a few other things that go with building this. And the fun part is it usually wants to try to create a picture. So we'll let it create a picture. When it creates a picture, I don't try to get the perfect image for it. It's going to create an AI generated image, and I'm usually fine with it. We'll see what it produces, and I will typically keep that. This usually takes about 30 seconds to a minute. So it timed out on making a picture, so I don't care. I can come back and get a picture later on, so I'm not going to deal with it. Okay, so now it's asking me a few questions about what should be emphasized or avoided in responses. And what I'm going to do right now is I have a style guide, and if you recall from an earlier video, I made a style guide based off of a transcript from one of my videos. So I'm going to tell it that I have some files, and one of them is a style guide. So now it's asking me to upload the files. So I'm going to drop in my Voice of Steve style guide and tone guide, and I'm going to hit enter. Great. Now it has a style guide that has all of the details about how I talk and sound, and that was based off of a transcript that I had provided ChatGPT in a different video. Now I'm going to tell it I have a few examples. And specifically, I have an example of an email newsletter, and I also have an example of a YouTube video description. I find that AI takes a lot of liberties when writing these, and I want to give as many examples as I can so it can understand what the output should look like. So I'm going to add an email newsletter example. You'll notice that the title of the attachment is very intentional. I title it as example-email newsletter. And the same thing with my next one is going to be a YouTube video description, same naming convention. And the reason I do this is because when you upload files into your Custom GPT, giving ChatGPT a way to find the file and reference it is important. So you'll notice when we get down to it later, I might say, write me an email newsletter and reference the file, and I'll name the file for how it should look. That way it knows exactly how to find the file. Now, if you don't do that, it's going to look at these files, but it's not going to memorize the files. It's going to inspect the files and pick out bits and pieces in order to get a reference for what you're trying to do. So a lot of people think that because you put a file up there, it memorizes it and then you're going to use it as an example. It can get frustrated when you expect that it's going to build the output just like your file does. And the way it really works is you have to tell it to reference that file. And that is the important part. And when you do that, it knows where to look and then it has it for reference. So I've got my next file in here for the YouTube video description. And that's pretty much what we're going to end with. Now, while it's incorporating that, you'll see on the right side, this is a practice area where you can test how all of this operates as you're going. So when this really becomes useful is after you save this and it's created, you're going to go back and you're going to update this over time. And it's going to need some fine tuning in your prompt and your files that you upload and things like that. So you're going to want to make some corrections over time. And this is an area where you can practice without leaving the interface. I'm just going to tell it we are done for now. Got it. So it says it's up and going. So we've done this all on the left side, on the create side. And let's go over to the configure and see what it built for us. So you can see that it's got the name, a quick description, and then it has the actual prompt in the instructions. This is different than the prompt that I loaded it with. So what I want to do is I want to test it to see if the knowledge that it has consumed is enough for it to know exactly the type of outputs that I want. And it's got my 3 files that I uploaded. And down here, really importantly, you have some options for capabilities. 1 is web search. 2 is you're allowing it to do image generation. And you'll see here that code interpreter and data analysis is turned off. And for content creation, it's probably fine that you turn this off. And one of the reasons that it's disabled as a default is that when you have it enabled, it is possible that somebody who is working with this Custom GPT can extract these documents out of it with a well-crafted prompt. And that's in fact what this says. So if this is a GPT that you want to share with other people, make sure that you're okay with sharing these documents if you enable Code Interpreter. And a lot of the use cases for custom GPTs is that you can get a link to it and anybody can use it. So that's one of the advantages of using a custom GPT is you can share it with other people. For now, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to hit create and I'm going to say only me for now. But if you wanted to, you could do anybody with a link can use it, or you could try to sell it. So I'm going to leave it for only me to keep things simple for now. And I just want to save it and make sure I have it. Now, what I want to do is stay in the interface for now. So it's saved, so it's not going anywhere, but I want to do a practice run. So I'm going to ask it to write a YouTube description. I'm going to insert a transcript from a video recorded the other day about using AI as a math tutor. And I've put it all in there. And now it's going ahead and it's going to create a YouTube video description. Now, what I'm looking for, does it emulate the style that I've trained it on by providing this example here on the YouTube description? And you can see it's got a headline. I've told it to build in a compelling hook and a very brief description, a follow-up paragraph. And importantly, I always want the timestamps. And it's got a call to action there for where people can join my group. So this works really well. All I had to do was drop in, write a YouTube description. It understood the assignment perfectly. It referenced my examples, and it created a description that is, in my opinion, over 90% good. I'll probably fine-tune, edit a few things, but what I'm avoiding here is I don't have to ask it to rewrite again and make these changes, or rewrite this description and remove this, or rewrite this description and emulate this example that I pasted below. So I'm saving tons of time. Now let's do one more. Let's just ask it to write an email newsletter for the same transcript. And same goal here is I like my email newsletters to be fairly brief, bullet points, catchy, and something that can be read quickly. And I also have some call to actions. This one is a little bit more wordy. I don't think I have the pro tips typically in mind, but other than that, it's not too bad. The main part that I'm looking for is the structure is consistent. I've got a compelling opening. I've got bullet points about what I talk about, and it's got a decent closing and call to action to watch the video. Some of the stuff that I'm going to fine tune and say, avoid this is I don't like these lines. This is unnecessary. And it feels fake and looks and feels like AI. So those are things I'll go back and say, here's a version of the edits I made. I don't like this. But my goal is always to get to 90% good. There's always editing. Don't ever forget that. This is AI and it's your name and your reputation on it. You have to do the edits. But I'm happy with this because now I'm ready to go. This saves me a ton of time. Just to recap what we've done is we've created a custom GPT that is perfect for reusable tasks. In my case, I make these videos every day. Each time I have to write a YouTube description, a YouTube title, I write email newsletter. Each time I want to generate a new set of assets for a video I recorded, I can just come into here and find it. It's the voice of Steve, start a new chat from scratch, drop in a transcript, and just say newsletter and transcript. And it's going to understand exactly what I want it to do in the style that I want, the tone of voice that I want, and it's done. That is a pre-programmed assistant that is going to generate a consistent output every time I create a new video. That is awesome. And imagine if you have a team of people that you work with and you're all working with the same type of assets and you need the same type of brand voice for your organization. Custom GPTs are a super powerful way to get this done. And you're going to be amazed at how much time you save and how good and consistent your content is going to be because you're using a platform that's going to help you generate that authentic tone of voice that aligns with your brand. It's going to follow all of the brand guidelines that you have because you've taught it how to write in your voice. It's simply amazing. I hope this is useful for you. Take a few moments to build these. The investment in time is well worth it, and it's going to change how you do work when using AI. All right, that is it for now. Take care.